Welcome to Northwest Profiles, a look at people, places, and events of interest in the inland Northwest.
It stands 2 to 3 feet off the floor. It's made of metal and a variety of components, including a changer, end plates, key heads, pedal rods, pickups, pull bars, and return springs. It also features a combination of necks, strings, foot pedals, and knee levers. What is this bizarre-looking contraption, you ask? Well, it's no contraption at all, but rather, it's a finely tuned instrument known as the pedal steel guitar. And while it may look a bit odd to the unfamiliar, its sound is anything but in the hands of a gifted musician. Here in the inland Northwest, he is simply referred to as the Dean of pedal steel guitar players. Now, there are 3 reasons for that. First off, his name is Dean Simmons. Secondly, at 71 years old, he's been around a long time. And finally, and perhaps more importantly, he's called the Dean because this is a man who has dedicated over 50 years of his life to both mastering as well as teaching the pedal steel guitar.
I used to listen to country music, and I still do, of course, but when I was growing up in high school, and I heard records with this beautiful sounding steel guitar on it, and I got very, very interested in wanting to play one of those. After I graduated from high school, I was working in a machine shop here in Spokane. A gentleman would come in with a steel bar to be machined, and I immediately recognized what it was, and I got to talking to him. He was a doctor studying here in Spokane, and he played steel guitar. And we talked, and he said, "Dean, I know you play rhythm guitar." He said, "I'll come over to your house and teach you to play steel guitar basics if you will do some rhythm guitar playing for me so I can play my songs." And I said, "Wow, good deal." His name was Bob Lee, and he got me started on playing the steel guitar the right way.
Primed with quality lessons and a passion for his instrument, Dean went on to establish himself as one of the best pedal steel guitar players in the area.
I worked with a gentleman by the name of T. Texas Tyler at one time, who was a big star from California. Recorded Bummin' Around, that was his big hit when I was playing for him. I worked with Cliff Carl on Jamboree for a year and a half on Creme TV. Recently I did the Patsy Cline play at Interplayers and played the steel guitar, and just played all around town doing jobs wherever they needed a steel guitar player.
Although he is quite humble when speaking about his body of work as a performer, make no mistake, Dean Simmons' accomplishments as a pedal steel guitarist over the past 50 years are varied in many. Generally, there are 3 different styles of playing the pedal steel guitar. Each style produces a distinct sound, including the Hawaiian, the Nashville, and the Western swing or jazz sound. Dean can play all 3 styles with precision, but it's the Western swing sound he enjoys the most.
I like swing music because I like jazz, and I like things that swing, so let's put it that way.
Dean's extraordinary ability to play a very technical instrument is just one side of this talented musician. The other is his willingness to instruct and share his playing skills with others, something Dean has been doing since he was 19 years old.
I used to go up to Hoffman's a lot, and Bill Graffmiller and was up there, and we used to have little jam sessions up there with different musicians on lunch hours. And I told Bill, I said, "You know, I'm going to go teach for blah, blah, blah." He says, "Dean, what are you going to do that for?" He says, "If you're going to teach, we want you here." And Hoffman's got me started teaching, and still teach for him to this day. Now we're going to dip it, and then pick it here, up and down. Try that.
Teaching, regardless of the subject, can be a challenge. However, instructing a budding musician on how to play the pedal steel guitar is even more so, given the complexity of the instrument.
Yeah, cool. I guess a harp, big harp, is really tough to play, and I've heard that a pedal steel guitar is about as hard as a harp to play. Just to be able to play it and make it sound good. Because you got these pedals that your feet are working, you've got picks on your fingers, you've got a bar in your hand, you've got to pick out the right cluster of strings, you've got to press the right pedal to get the chord you want, and you've got to get the bar on the fret and be sure it's in tune, and then work your vibrato to make it sound good. I think one of the biggest mistakes, a lot of people want to do pedal steel guitars, thinks that they can just start right in. Well, by the time they find the cluster of strings, figure out what pedal to press, there's no song. So it's easier to get your hands going first and then work into the pedals. Right there.
What separates the sound of a pedal steel guitar from that of a regular guitar is the ability of the player to vibrato the sound.
This vibrato is probably one of the hardest things to teach, and maybe one of the hardest things for students to learn and develop. It has to be done by feel. It has to be an equal distance on each side of the fret, lowering and raising the tone. It can't be like that, or it can't be. It's got to sound.
As you might expect, with a teaching career spanning over a half-century, Dean Simmons' impact on the music scene in the Inland Northwest has and continues to be a significant one.
In many respects, I've told Dean this before, Tuesday afternoon is my favorite day of the week. Not simply for the lesson I get in playing my guitar, but Dean is a well-rounded, very gracious man. He's very patient with me when I'm playing, and I enjoy so much of that. And I don't know about his other students, but there is no better feeling than to play something for Dean and have him say, good job. It's not that he would say, you know, that's really awful. You're really not catching on to this, and, you know, pack it up and go home. I think Dean would just figure out a different way to teach you.
That's getting better now. That's getting better.
When I have a lesson with Dean, I go way beyond just the technique. Where are the notes? What notes come next? It's how's the music feel? How should it feel? Dean will give you a sheet of music, and the music kind of defines broad parameters of how he wants to play, and he encourages you to go beyond that.
These days, while Dean readily admits that age with all its aches and pains is starting to slow him down a bit, he continues to teach and do what he loves best, perform. For the past 4 years, he's had a chance to display his enormous talent as a member of the Western swing band called the Ponderay Band.
Dean is very creative, very technical, and very talented. And you put all that together, he's right there at as close to #1 as you can get him.
For Dean Simmons, each performance with a band offers another opportunity to share as well as seek perfection with his instrument of choice, the pedal steel guitar.
Let me tell you about the humility of a person that has dedicated himself 50 years to one instrument. And whether he would admit it or not, he is close, I would think, as close as anybody to mastering it. I know that he says it cannot be mastered, but there's few things that he can't play. He is very proud of his accomplishment, and he understands what he has done, but has a certain amount of humility about what he does that I find so refreshing and so attractive. He's just proud of his accomplishment, and he's proud to be able to pass that on to somebody else.
If you have a story idea for Northwest Profiles, send it to KSPS TV, 3911 South Regal, Spokane, Washington, 99223. Northwest Profiles is a presentation of KSPS Public Television.